Hey there. If you've had a long day, you're in the right place. This is your quiet corner of the internet where nothing is expected of you except to rest. Tonight, I'll be reading you a long, winding Reddit story. It's full of emotions, secrets, and little twists, the kind of tale you can slowly drift off to. You don't need to keep track of every detail. Just let the words wash over you. Let your eyes get heavy, and before you know it, you'll be asleep. So tuck in, get comfortable, and let's begin. Ate her for not attending my daughter's wedding. After she disinvited my partner, as I sit here, gazing at my computer screen, I find myself grappling with feelings of anger, confusion, and disappointment. I guess that's why I'm here, typing my thoughts out in this subreddit. Let me give you some context. I'm Maya, a 55-year-old woman living in a small town just outside of Chicago. For the past 15 years, I have been in a relationship with Linda, a wonderful woman who not only stole my heart, but also became a loving stepmother to my daughter, Claire. Claire is 28 years old and has always been a significant source of pride and joy in my life. But now, I find myself in a situation that feels almost insurmountable. Claire and I have always been close, despite the challenges that arose when I came out as bisexual and began my relationship with Linda. Initially, Claire struggled with it. She had grown up with the idea that normal love was between a man and a woman. I understood where she was coming from, but over the years, thanks to open conversations and a lot of love, she eventually grew to accept us. In fact, I always thought she warmed up to Linda more than I expected. They developed a sweet friendship, going on shopping trips and even sharing an occasional glass of wine on the porch. Things seemed to be going well until Claire got engaged to her college sweetheart, Jason. While I was thrilled that Claire had found someone she loved, I did feel my heart sink a little. You see, Claire had grown up seeing a traditional family structure, and I feared that her wedding would lean heavily into that realm. I promised myself to remain supportive, no matter how my feelings poured out. The engagement party was the first test for me, as I navigated the slightly awkward waters of Claire's family versus my own. But Linda was gracious. She helped me pick out the right outfit, gave me styling advice, and even joined me in the puzzle of finding the perfect gift. When the night finally arrived, the moment I laid eyes on Claire in her elegant dress was captivating. I felt so proud. I was tearing up like a proud mom should. However, as weeks passed and wedding planning began in earnest, it became apparent that Claire was not quite on board with having Linda involved in that part of her life. Initially, Claire insisted that Linda be part of the wedding, but when the discussions turned serious, she began to have doubts. "Mom, I feel like this is my one chance to do everything the traditional way," one of her messages read one night. It set the tone for what was to come. I tried to be understanding. I knew Claire was wrestling with societal expectations and her own evolving identity. I offered to help however I could, encouraging her to embrace the elements that felt authentic to her, but still beautiful. And yet, with every conversation, I felt Claire inching away from Linda, as if she was distancing herself to feel safe in the familiar. One fateful weekend, it all came to a head. Linda and I had made plans to attend a wedding expo for inspiration. Excited by the prospects and eager to support Claire, I suggested we invite her along. But when I pitched the idea to Claire, her reaction was immediate and cutting. "Mum, I don't want Linda there," she said. "I just want it to be the two of us, just like it used to be." I tried to reason with her, articulating that Linda had become an indelible part of my life and, by extension, would always be part of some significant moments, including her wedding. It was the harshness of the truth when she fired back. "Your moments with her aren't more important than my moment with you." It was a harsh blow, but it didn't explicitly mean anything yet. I took a step back, giving her space to mull over her feelings. A week later, Claire texted me asking to dinner. I knew I had to go. This was my daughter after all. At the small cafe where we met, the mood felt tense from the moment I sat down. We made small talk at first, but I could, See that dagger of discomfort masking itself under bravado. "Mom, I've been thinking," she began, "about the wedding. I know this might hurt, but I need you to know that I don't want Linda there. I'm disinviting her." My heart sank. My mind raced as I tried to process the words she had just said. "Claire, that's unfair." "Mom, please. It's your big moment too, but this is mine. I can't focus on making my day perfect with her around." I felt a presence of anger well up inside me. "You can't just disinvite someone who has been such an important part of my life," I said, my voice trembling. "Do you even understand that by doing this, you are effectively asking me to choose between my partner, who has supported me through everything, and you?" Claire didn't waver. "This is not about you and Linda. It's about me and my wedding, about my perfect fairy tale." I went home feeling torn into pieces. The days passed, and a chasm began to open between us. The family we built. We were slowly losing each other. Linda, faced with my distress, offered comfort. "You can't put yourself in a position where you feel like a second-class parent," she said gently. I made the difficult decision to stand by Linda, missing the entire wedding. The wedding day came, and I found myself sitting at home, enveloped in silence. I felt anger brewing towards Claire. My heart ached for Linda. I touched upon the memories of our years spent together. Every shared laugh, every tear that had been wiped away. This was not the life I envisioned for us. After the wedding, Claire called. Her voice wavered as she said, "Mum, congratulations on missing a day I wish you'd been part of." It was as if a switch flipped. I didn't miss it willingly. "Claire, you made that choice for me. Mom, it was just what? Just an important day. This moment was supposed to be about family, about love. You went ahead and ripped me away from that. What do you want from me?" I was never going to have the dream wedding with Linda there. I had to draw the line somewhere. I could hear tears in her voice, and it broke my heart. But I was done. "I want you to think about what just happened. You pulled my whole world apart. Days turned into weeks, and the rift between us stung like a harsh winter wind." Linda, sensing the change in me, held me close, but also encouraged me to reach out. I felt lost, straddling a fine line between my love for my partner and my unyielding affection for my daughter. Finally, one day, it came to a head. I texted Claire, asking if she'd meet for coffee. She agreed hesitantly, and as we stepped into the small cafe, I could tell the tension was still palpable. "I'm sorry for missing your wedding," I said when I found my voice. "But I will not apologize for my love for Linda. You can either accept her or not, but she was family to me long before you were. That remains true." Claire's eyes glistened with tears, and for the first time in weeks, she seemed less defensive. "I was scared, you know. I kept thinking if I let Linda in, you wouldn't be my mom anymore. It felt like a betrayal to my old memories." I reached across the table and held her hand. "You don't have to fear me losing my love for you. You can have both. Love doesn't diminish, it expands. But you have to meet me at the bridge, Claire." In that moment, it felt as though the chasm was breaching an end, but was it enough? As the weeks followed, we started a new chapter in our relationship, taking slow steps to bridge the gap caused by misunderstandings. There were conversations, tears, laughter, and a gradual acceptance of both of our imperfections. Now, as I sit here and type this, I know one thing for sure. Love is a journey. Though difficult, it's one worth taking for the sake of family and the bonds that truly matter. AETA, for missing my daughter's wedding to uphold my love for my partner. I still struggle with this question, but as I gaze into the future, I am met with hope that in the end, love will always prevail. The ties that bind setting. A suburban neighborhood in a quaint town where everyone knows each other. The story centers around the lives of two families, the Miller family, who are long-time town residents, and the newly arrived Chen family. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue across the quiet street. It was the kind of neighborhood where children played freely, neighbors exchanged pleasantries, and everyone was involved in each other's lives. Jennifer Miller stood in her front yard, trimming the hedges, feeling the gentle breeze brush against her face. She glanced over at her neighbor's house, where the Chens had moved in just 2 weeks prior. Jennifer hadn't spoken to them yet. She usually followed the town's unwritten rule of waiting for newcomers to introduce themselves first. However, curiosity gripped her. The Chens had 3 children, all around the same age as her own. But even more intriguing was the lingering quiet that surrounded their home, as if they were an island amidst a bustling community. That Saturday afternoon, after a long week of work and juggling her kids' schedules, Jennifer decided to bake a batch of chocolate chip cookies, something to welcome the Chens and break the ice. She put on her favorite apron and whisked together the ingredients, with the occasional laughter of her children in the background. Soon, the sweet, warm aroma filled the house. "There! Perfect!" she declared, pulling the tray from the oven. The gooey cookies glistened, still slightly melty. She placed them on a plate and marched toward her neighbor's house. Her children, Ethan, age 9, and Mia, age 6, trailing behind her. "Mum, do we have to?" Ethan asked, a hint of embarrassment coloring his voice. "Yes, we do. It's a nice thing to do," she replied, nudging him with her hip as they approached the front door of the Chen residence. She knocked softly. A moment later, the door opened to reveal Mrs. Chen, a petite woman in her 30s, wearing a warm smile despite the weariness in her eyes. "Oh, hi there," Mrs. Chen exclaimed, her accent lightly tinged with the melodic lilt of her native Mandarin. "Welcome to our home." "Hi, I'm Jennifer Miller, and these are my kids, Ethan and Mia. We live right next door," she said, gesturing to her home. "I baked some cookies to welcome you to the neighborhood." Mrs. Chen's eyes brightened. "That's so kind of you, thank you." She stepped aside, inviting them in. The interior of the Chen home was modest but inviting, filled with mixed accents of Eastern and Western decor. Pictures of the family surrounded a large oak dining table, and various toys scattered across the living room floor spoke of the frenzied energy typical of family life. As they chatted, Mrs. Chen's 2 daughters, Lily and May, aged 8 and 5 respectively, quickly made friends with Mia, who was fascinated by their collection of stuffed animals. Ethan, though slightly shy, found common ground with Daniel, the youngest of the Chen siblings, who was just 7. Over the next few days, the 2 families spent more time together. They shared dinners, playdates, and even family movie nights. Laughter often echoed through their yards as Jennifer and Mrs. Chen traded stories over fences and willow trees. It felt like magic. 2 families merging, feeling the warmth of friendship that spanned cultures. But slowly, beneath the surface of this idyllic friendship, ripples of tension began to emerge. It was at a neighborhood barbecue, a gathering meant to reinforce community ties, where matters escalated. As everyone mingled, Jennifer overheard whispers. A few neighbors were directing thinly veiled comments at the Chens, questioning the newcomers' involvement in local traditions. "Have you heard? They don't celebrate Halloween," one neighbor scoffed, positioning herself as the defender of proper customs. "Yeah, they say they prefer traditional festivals," another echoed, emphasizing their supposedly detached demeanor. Jennifer's heart sank. It was inevitable. Whenever anyone new arrived, a few residents would feel the need to ascertain where they fit in the cultural landscape. The thought that her friends, the Chens, were becoming the subject of gossip filled her with anxiety. Riding home on the high of a fun evening, but weighed down by a sense of foreboding, Jennifer turned to her husband, Tom. "Did you hear what they were saying about the Chens?" Tom nodded, his brow furrowed. "They'll have to get used to that. It's traditional around here. People can be rigorous about their ways. But it's not right. They're causing a rift. They're..." Sweet, they didn't mean to offend anyone. The tension between Tom and Jennifer crackled like static. You can't save the whole world, Jen, he said, leaning back in the car seat. You know how people are. But Jennifer wouldn't let it go. She decided to confront the whispers, head on. After all, the children were playing together, and there was no reason why the tension should extend into their innocent friendships. The next afternoon, she found herself on the phone with Mrs. Chen, the sympathy spilling out of her. I just wanted to check in on you guys. I've noticed some of the neighbors saying, well, things. It's not right. Mrs. Chen sighed deeply, her voice laced with resignation. I've heard too. I thought it would be different here, but it seems everyone has their way of doing things. I don't want you to feel unwelcome. You and your family belong here, Jennifer insisted, feeling a pang of guilt for indulging in town's prejudices. We're here for you. If there's anything we can do to help, please let me know. Days turned into weeks, and as more holiday seasons rolled around, the divide grew clearer. Halloween arrived, and Ethan invited Daniel to join them for trick-or-treating. Unbeknownst to the children, however, was the silent undercurrent of animosity that boiled under the festive facade. The night was cool and crisp. Laughing and shouting, the children sprinted from door to door, their faces painted with delight. Yet, when they approached a porch decorated with ghouls and skeletons, some of the older neighbors scowled. Their disdain was palpable. Jennifer felt a moment of dread every time she saw a neighbor pulling a child aside, whispering discriminatory comments under the guise of subtlety. Even some of the children's parents joined in. Why does Daniel keep running back to your side instead of going to the other kids? One mother asked Jennifer, her voice dripping with judgment. Because he's excited. We all are. Jennifer shot back, defensive. But the feeling in her gut only confirmed her fear. Some people were hardwired to exclude those who didn't fit their mold. Eventually, one evening, Jennifer received a message from Mrs. Chen that would change everything. Can we talk? I feel very uncomfortable in the neighborhood lately. It seems like some people don't want us here. Her heart sank again as she realized that the distance between neighbors was growing painful and profound. They met at a nearby cafe, and over steaming mugs of coffee, Mrs. Chen opened up, tears brimming in her eyes. I try so hard to adapt. The kids love playing with yours, but it feels like a front. I want to belong, but I can't shake this feeling that I'm a second-class citizen in this little town. It feels lonely and isolating. Jennifer felt tears prickling in her own eyes. You're not second class. You're family. We belong to each other, don't we? I'll speak up, I promise. It's wrong what they're doing. You deserve to feel welcome. The turning point came during Thanksgiving. Jennifer organized a potluck where everyone was invited, encouraging neighbors to learn about each other's traditions. She even partnered with the Chens to introduce some of their family recipes, hoping to bridge the gap. At first, the air was thick with apprehension. Many neighbors showed up out of obligation rather than interest. Yet, as the tables overflowed, with food and the laughter of children echoed in the background, something shifted. As they tasted the Chen family's signature dumplings, steamed to perfection, and compared holiday customs, the tension began to ease. Neighbors began to ask questions about the Chen family's traditions, intrigued by their differences rather than judging them. Over time, the conversation broadened, revealing stories, laughter, and mutual respect born from a shared meal. Just as the sentiment seemed to tilt positively, Jennifer noticed one of the bystanders, Martha, known for her outspoken disapproval of anything outside the norm, eyeing the Chens with disdain. Feeling a sudden urge, Jennifer approached her, her heart racing. Martha, I know this might be a bit outside your comfort zone, but these traditions are beautiful and are being shared with love. What if instead of judgment, you embraced curiosity? Martha opened her mouth to respond, but then paused, caught between two forces, the ingrained social norm and the warmth growing around them. The crowd began to swell with laughter, and for a moment, perhaps she felt the pull of opportunity, a chance to unravel her distrust and replace it with understanding. In the days that followed, a transformation began. More neighbors befriended the Chens, some even volunteering to help them with local traditions and even integrating martial arts demonstrations into the neighborhood's sports day. The relationship between the two families grew deeper, and a beautiful camaraderie blossomed as they united around communal experiences. Gradually, the boundary that had once divided them slowly started to dissolve, replacing it with an intricate tapestry of cultures, born of love, respect, and shared experiences. Conclusion. Years passed, and what had once been an initial struggle for acceptance turned into a memory of harmony. The Chens and Millers became inseparable, intertwined like the roots of the ancient trees lining their street. At a neighborhood gathering, now an annual event that blended traditions, Jennifer stood surrounded by both families. As a toast was raised, she felt the weight of the journey. Some had transformed their prejudices into acceptance, others had let love and laughter take center stage. For Jennifer, the nuances of their neighborhood drama evolved into a beautiful tale of resilience. A reminder that, when faced with adversity, neighbors can choose understanding over exclusion, compassion over judgment. In a world filled with friction, a single act of kindness can change everything. And in her heart, she knew they had made the right choice together. The weight of generations setting, a small town in Ohio, where the air is thick with history and the streets echo with unspoken secrets. Part 1. The Decision. When Clara Caldwell turned 35, she found herself, once again, sitting at the family dining table, surrounded by the remnants of her mother's spaghetti. The aroma of simmering tomato and garlic hung heavy in the air, a comforting reminder of home. Yet this day held a bitter distinction. She was about to unveil a decision that could change the course of her family's history. "Mama, I need to talk to you about something," Clara said hesitantly while twirling the pasta on her fork, trying to gather her thoughts. Caroline Caldwell, a petite woman with graying hair and a radiant smile, paused mid-sentence, her eyes focusing intently on Clara. "What is it, sweetheart? You look pale." "I've been offered a promotion at work. It's in Portland," Clara blurted, the news spilling out like a dam breaking. "They want me to lead a new project, and it's a huge opportunity for my career." The room fell silent. Clara could almost hear her mother's heart skip a beat. "Portland," Caroline whispered, as if repeating the word might make it feel less real. That's so far away." "I know," Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper now. "But I've waited for this opportunity for years. It's what I've studied for, what I've worked for. I can't pass it up." Caroline looked down at her half-eaten plate, her fork frozen mid-air. "What about your family? Your friends? This is your home, Clara." "Mom, I need to live my own life," Clara insisted, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "I love this place, but it doesn't offer me the opportunities I want. I can't stay here and be unhappy forever. I want to try something new." Tension hung thick in the air, but Clara's resolve began to harden. After years of feeling trapped by familial obligations, she had finally found a chance to reclaim her life, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. But Caroline's deep sigh grounded her. "Your father, he worked his whole life for this family," Caroline murmured, her voice tinged with a mixture of sadness and anger. "He sacrificed so much. He expected us to carry on his legacy here." "Mom," Clara interrupted, her heart racing. "I'm not Dad. I can't live for someone else's dream." More silence followed, and Clara felt the weight of generations pressing down on her shoulders. Fear flashed across her mother's face, and that fear transformed into a storm of anger. "So you're just going to abandon everything? Your family, your heritage, for a job?" Clara's stomach churned. "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm moving forward." The argument spiraled out of control. Doors slamming, voices rising, accusations thrown like daggers. By the time Clara stormed out, she felt exhilarated, but deeply shattered. Her mother's face haunted her, a mixture of betrayal and anguish. In her mind's eye, Clara replayed those words, feeling them pierce through her defenses. Part 2. The fallout days turned into weeks. Clara packed her belongings, her dreams intertwined with every folded shirt and trinket. And even as she prepared for her new life, the silence between her and her mother grew intolerable. Back in her childhood bedroom, Clara unearthed her father's old journal, musty and fragile. Flipping through pages filled with meticulous handwriting, she found a passage dedicated to family. "Family is where your heart finds rest," it read. Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks, a mixture of nostalgia and guilt jarring her mind. Her father had always believed in the importance of roots. She felt as if she were severing them, unintentionally, yet brutally. The fateful day of departure arrived. Clara hugged her mother tightly, but it felt like an embrace full of unspoken words, resentment lingering beneath the surface. Caroline stood at the front porch, a statue of sorrow, as Clara slid into the back seat of her friend Jess's car. "Are you okay?" Jess asked, her concern palpable. "What if I made a mistake?" Clara murmured, looking back as the familiar contours of her home faded into the distance. "You'll be fine. This is your chance to chase your dreams," Jess assured her. But, deep inside, Clara felt the weight of unresolved tension accompanying her to Portland. Once in Oregon, the city enveloped Clara with a sense of excitement and freedom. The opportunities she longed for began to materialize with every meeting, every networking event, every new project. But every triumph was stained with a sense of loss, a void in her heart, a piece of her soul left behind in Ohio. The first week flew by, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was missing. The voice on the other end of the phone was a bittersweet reminder of what she'd left behind. "Hey, Clara," Caroline's voice cracked through the static. "I was just checking in." "I miss you, Mama," Clara admitted, heat rising to her cheeks. She had imagined this call before, but now felt the full weight of her choice. "I miss you too. I've been thinking." Caroline hesitated. "Maybe we could visit." Clara's heart soared momentarily before reality sank in. "I would love that, but can you promise me something?" "What is it?" "Don't make me feel guilty for wanting to be here, please. I'm trying, Clara. It's just, this isn't as easy for me as it is for you." "I know." It was true. No one expected Caroline to understand. Her foundation was built on heritage and family ties that had been passed down through generations. Clara's boldness felt alien too. Her mother, a woman who had sacrificed so much. "I'll work on it," Caroline finally conceded. "Just don't forget us, okay?" "I promise," Clara whispered, knowing that she was still wrestling with her choices. Part 3. The reunion months passed, and Clara began to adjust to her new life. She embraced the chaos of the city, quelled her restlessness with late-night projects and early morning coffees. But each evening, as dusk painted the skyline golden, Clara felt an ache in her chest, the kind that comes from missing someone deeply. As the holidays approached, Clara found herself yearning for home. She decided to take a leap of faith and invited her mother to spend Christmas with her in Portland. The day Caroline arrived felt strangely surreal. Clara flitted around the apartment, fussing over decorations and preparing a feast that couldn't compare to the ones her mother used to make. Caroline walked in, eyes wide like a child at a carnival, but the cautious smile betraying a mother's unease. "Wow, Clara, you've done well for yourself," Caroline remarked, taking in the skyline view through the massive window. "Thanks, Mama," Clara said, hugging her tightly. For both of them, it felt like stepping into a foreign land, sizing each other up. The evening began with clumsy small talk, conversations about the weather and surface-level pleasantries. But somewhere between the main course and dessert, the air shifted, and Clara launched into a story about a project that had gone wrong. "I felt so lost at first, but then I realized how much I could learn from it," Clara explained, eyes sparkling with passion. Her mother listened intently over her glass of wine. "You really love it here, don't you?" More than I ever imagined. But it hasn't been easy. Clara's gaze grew serious. Have you thought about why it's hard for us? Caroline took a moment, setting her glass down thoughtfully. You feel guilt for leaving, and I feel fear for losing. I don't want to lose anyone, Clara interjected, emotion thickening her voice. But I want to be happy. Can't we find a way to make both work? I suppose so. But we need to talk about my expectations too. I lost my father, and I don't want to feel like I'm losing you, Caroline admitted, tears glossing her eyes. With the glimmer of honesty between them, the air shifted again. Clara stepped closer, her heart by now aching for understanding. I'm still your daughter, Mama. I'm still here, just in a different way. The words hung suspended in the air like the fairy lights twinkling around them. It was a fragile truce, but a step toward healing. Part 4. Finding Common Ground. As the days passed, Clara and Caroline found rhythm in their conversations. They wandered through markets, explored the city's eclectic neighborhoods, and shared stories over cups of rich coffee. Although their differences were stark, Clara's ambitious urban life contrasted with Caroline's quiet roots. Their bond began to flourish in this new understanding. On Christmas morning, Clara surprised her mother with a framed photo of their family home, along with a note she had written in the back. Home is where the heart grows. When Caroline opened it, her eyes misted over, and full tears rolled down her cheeks. Oh, Clara, she gasped. I never want you to feel like you don't belong. I know, Mama, Clara said, gently touching her shoulder. I'm finding a way to fit both my worlds into one. Their journey would not be easy, but with every conversation, every shared laugh, and every vulnerable moment, Clara now believed they could build a bridge out of love. Part 5. The year ahead as January ushered in a new year. Clara penned a letter to post on Reddit, describing her experience. Am I the asshole? She titled it, seeking validation from a community she had grown to trust. I moved away for a job, and my mum disapproves. I feel guilty, but I also want to follow my dreams. Now that we've begun to reconcile, I'm scared of losing her again. Am I selfish for wanting my own life? The responses flooded in, a cacophony of opinions ranging from fierce support to vehement disdain. But among them, one stood out. You're not selfish. You're learning to define your own happiness. Families evolve, but love remains constant. As Clara read the response, she felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had made decisions she believed were right for her, and her relationship with her mother had started to heal. The path forward wouldn't be devoid of challenges, but it was one she was willing to walk, hand in hand with her mother, a connection forged through vulnerability. Clara tucked the letter away, a symbol of her journey. In the intersection of family and individual aspirations, there existed a profound strength neither of them anticipated. Whatever lay ahead would be navigated together, both as family and as individuals, and that realization was worth every ounce of courage it took to chase her dreams and embrace the roots that would forever bind their hearts. Conclusion. In the months that followed, Clara and Caroline learned to celebrate their differences and embrace new experiences. They initiated monthly calls, shared life updates, and even planned visits that transcended both distance and misunderstanding. Each time they met, they laid another brick on the bridge they were crafting, transforming their relationship into one grounded in acceptance and love. So, the weight of generations didn't just symbolize obligation. It became a tapestry of history, woven together with threads of new beginnings, dreams chased, and love, undoubtedly unbreakable. Clara Caldwell was no longer torn between two worlds. She had found a way to thrive in both. Aita for leaking my ex-best friend's secrets. It all began on what was supposed to be a mundane Tuesday evening. The sun was setting behind the orange-hued skyline of our little town, painting the sky with strokes of purple and pink. I was seated, on my modest couch, a warm cup of tea in hand, my laptop perched on my knees as I scrolled through my notifications on Reddit. When I came across the subreddit r, Am I the Asshole?, A thought sparked in my mind. What if I shared my own story? My heart raced as I began typing, eager and nervous to share a piece of my life. So here I was, laying the groundwork for a story that I hoped would resonate with the community. The backstory: back in high school, my best friend, Sarah, and I were inseparable. We shared everything: our dreams, our teenage crushes, and even our darkest fears. We were like sisters, bound by the invisible thread of friendship. But as we transitioned from adolescence to adulthood, the fabric of our relationship began to fray. Sarah had always been the more outgoing one, the life of the party, the girl everyone wanted around. I admired her for it, but in a quiet corner of my heart, a seed of envy began to sprout. I was shy, more introverted, often content with my books and sketchpads rather than the social scene. Yet, I figured that was okay. Opposites attract after all, and I liked being the counterbalance to her vibrant personality. However, things took a turn when Sarah began dating Mark, the most popular guy in our school. He was charming, athletic, and as social as they come. For a while, I was thrilled for her. But soon, I found myself trapped in a web of jealousy as their relationship blossomed. Sarah changed. She became less available, flaking on our plans, and responding to my messages with curt replies. One fateful night during senior year, as I sat home, scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a photo that tore my heart apart. It was Sarah and Mark, smiling, laughing, happy, and most importantly, with my sketchbook in the background, visible in the photo. What shocked me wasn't just the betrayal of her flaunting the life I longed for, but the secret she'd been keeping from me. For weeks, Sarah had been using my sketches for her art classes, telling her classmates they were her own. I remember that night as if it were yesterday. The ache of betrayal tightening around my heart as I realized the depth of her treachery. The city lights felt dimmer, and my world plunged into a deep, suffocating darkness. The breaking point fast. Forward to a few weeks later, I'd planned a dinner with Sarah to confront her about what I'd discovered. I wanted to give her a chance to explain. Perhaps I was being unreasonable. After all, friends can slip up sometimes, right? We met at our favorite restaurant, the one where we'd spent countless hours talking and dreaming about our futures. Sitting across from her, I felt my heart racing. Finally, I mustered the courage to speak. "Sarah, can we talk? I saw the photo online and I know you've been using my sketches for your assignments." Her expression shifted, defiance flickering across her features. "I thought you'd be flattered. Your art is amazing, and I just wanted my work to stand out." "So you decided to take credit for my hard work?" I asked, incredulous. "I didn't think it would be a big deal," Sarah snapped, her voice rising slightly. "Everyone does it. It's just art." That was when I realized that the person I had confided in and trusted didn't view our friendship as sacred. I felt my heart shatter, and in that moment, the bond we shared unraveled entirely. The days turned into weeks, and finally, I made a decision. If Sarah could betray me, I considered, then maybe it was time to expose her secrets to the very people she cared about most. The moment of reckonings, fate would have it. I overheard Sarah bragging to a group of friends about her recent college acceptance. They were singing her praises, oblivious to the underlying dishonesty of her success. I felt a wave of conviction wash over me. That night, I typed a message to a close mutual friend, Jessica. I shared everything: Sarah's deception with my art, her habit of downplaying my contributions to our projects, and the emotional toll it had taken on me. The very next day, Sarah's name was the talk of the town. It spread like wildfire. I overheard whispers in the hallways, giggles, and outright confrontations. Students began to challenge her about her lies. She was cornered and increasingly defensive. I should have felt guilty, maybe even sensitive, to her plight, but the realization that I had finally regained my voice was intoxicating. What I didn't anticipate was how it would change everything. Sarah became distant, and the social media landscape shifted. Friends I had known for years began to take sides. Some supported me, others feeling pity for Sarah, who was suddenly the lonely girl in the shadows of my unveiling. As the days passed, I wrestled with a mix of satisfaction and doubt. I had freed myself from her grasp, yet in doing so, I'd also tainted our memories. The laughter, the secrets, the family-like bond we had shared felt like a mirage, slipping away grain by grain. One rainy afternoon, as I sat in my room nursing another cup of tea, I felt a ping of conscience. It plagued me. Was I truly justified in my actions? Had I become the monster I so despised? The climax weeks later, Sarah and I finally saw each other face to face at a mutual friends gathering, a group that used to feel like home. Tension hung in the room like an unwelcome fog. As we made eye contact, I could see the hurt in her eyes. I felt it too, an ache that hadn't dulled with time. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice quieter than I remembered. The bravado dissolved into vulnerability. "About what?" I replied, attempting to keep the wall I had built strong. "About everything. What happened between us?" I sighed, feelings of resentment and guilt warring within me. "I thought we had something special, Sarah. When I saw you taking credit for my work, it felt like you were stealing a piece of my soul. I just wanted you to acknowledge me, to be my friend, not just the popular girl. I never meant for you to feel that way," she murmured. "But you also didn't see the pressure I was under. Everyone expected so much from me. I wanted to prove that I could make it on my own. Using your sketches wasn't meant to hurt you. It was a misguided attempt to fit in." I took a deep breath. Her admission rattled me. The pain of betrayal simmered under the surface. But there was something deeper, a sense of loss for the friendship that used to be. "Have you ever thought about how your actions affect those around you?" I pressed, my voice stern but unsteady. "This isn't just about art, it's about trust." "I know, she faltered, the warmth of her voice replaced by a chilling honesty. "I guess I thought I could manage everything perfectly, but now I see that I've alienated the one person who was always there for me." At that moment, my anger began to dissolve, replaced by a bittersweet understanding. It's hard, isn't it, to reconcile who we were with who we've become. "Do you think we can ever go back?" she whispered. That question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty, yet laced with possibility. The resolution, as the evening wore on, and the gathering faded into laughter and chatter about new experiences, we parted ways with a tenuous friendship stretched across the chasm that had once separated us. I left with mixed feelings, a bitter taste of betrayal and a hopeful echo of redemption. Weeks later, I returned to our Amethyas hole, contemplating my own post. I recounted my experience, how Sarah had betrayed my trust, and how I had exposed her lies, the aftermath of which ensued. But now, with a sense of clarity, I included my journey toward understanding. The community's feedback was overwhelming. While many couldn't condone my initial actions, the compassionate responses reminded me that human relationships are often fluid, marked by mistakes, misunderstandings, and sometimes grace. I realized that it wasn't about whether I was the a-hole in my situation. It was about growing from our shared experiences. The narrative of betrayal had morphed into one of reflection. Maybe Sarah and I couldn't go back to the way things were, but perhaps we could carve a new path forward, one defined by honesty, and dare I say, a bit of wisdom. As I closed my laptop that night, the once raging storm inside me calmed. Some friendships evolve into deeper understandings, and some dissolve into fragments of our past. But in that experience, I learned to embrace both, as a testament to the complicated tapestry of human connections. Thus, I let the layers of my story unfold, unafraid to share my vulnerability with a world that truly understood the depth of my struggle. In the end, I didn't know if I was the ass or not. All I knew was that I had let go of the weight that had burdened my soul for too long, a bittersweet beginning to the rest of my life. The Dance of Light and Shadow. Chapter 1. The beginning of the Riftin, the quaint little town of Maplewood, where golden leaves rustled in joyful harmony with the crisp autumn air. An unusual schism was brewing among the residents. The town was known for its warmth and camaraderie, but the recent developments had turned neighbour against neighbour, friend against friend, and even families began to fracture. At the heart of the discord was the Hartley family. Anna, a single mother, and a devoted nurse. Her rebellious daughter Jenna, just 14 years old, and Adam, Anna's younger brother, who had settled in town after a decade of travelling. Anna was a beacon of light in a town known for its shadows. She had made a name for herself as a compassionate nurse at the local clinic and was adored by her patients. Jenna, however, was struggling to find herself, caught in the throes of adolescence amidst the pressures of her peers. She felt her mother's overbearing love like a heavy blanket that stifled her spirit, and Adam, trying to play the role of the protective uncle, found himself tangled between the two strong-willed women in his life. One chilly evening, the town council announced a proposal to build a sprawling shopping centre on the edge of Maplewood, an endeavour that promised economic prosperity but threatened the small-town charm. Several citizens rallied against it, led by none other than Anna, who had seen enough of urban blight creeping into their idyllic town. On the other side of the divide stood Jenna's newfound friends, youths enthusiastically dreaming of late-night hangouts in trendy shops and coffee houses, who supported the development. This division hit Jenna hard. She felt torn between her friends and her mother. On the one hand, there was her desire for change and adventure. On the other, the love and loyalty she felt towards Anna. Jenna's world grew increasingly suffocating, with each argument at home pushing her further into the company of those who championed the new mall. Chapter 2. The ultimatum. One particularly turbulent afternoon, when the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over Maplewood, the inevitable confrontation occurred. It started as a mundane discussion about the upcoming town hall meeting, but it quickly devolved into something more explosive. "Mom, it's just a mall. Why can't you just get over it?" Jenna exclaimed, her voice echoing through the living room. "Everyone else thinks it's a good idea." "This isn't just about a mall, Jenna. It's about our community. It's about preserving what makes Maplewood special." Anna's cheeks flushed with frustration. "But I don't care about that. You're just being a stubborn old lady," Jenna retorted, flinging her backpack onto the couch. Anger surged like a tempest through both of them, but before they could spiral further, Adam intervened. "Jenna, you know your mum cares deeply about this town, and Anna, you need to understand that she's growing up. Her friends and their dreams matter too." But there it was, the stillness that follows a storm. The air crackled with unspoken words, accusations layered with love and misunderstanding. Jenna stomped upstairs, slamming her door, while Anna's heart pounded in her chest. A mix of worry and anger. Days turned into weeks, and the town became more polarized. The council meeting loomed near, a battleground not just for the town's future, but for the Hartley family. Jenna and her friends organized a campaign to rally for the mall, plastering vibrant flyers around the town, while Anna led the charge against them. Then came that fateful night, the town hall meeting where everyone would gather to voice their opinions. Chapter 3. The town hall meeting. The community centre was packed. Tension hung in the air like an unwelcome intruder. As Anna stood before the crowd, her voice steady, she laid out her vision for maintaining Maplewood's heritage. "We cannot allow our town to be consumed by commercialism," she stated, eyes searching for allies in the sea of familiar faces. "Once we lose our identity, there's no turning back." The crowd erupted into applause, but as Anna took her seat, dread nestled in the pit of her stomach. Across the room, Jenna sat with her friends, a storm brewing in her heart, feeling the weight of her mother's words sink into her. Jenna's chances of being accepted in the new world she craved slipped further away with each of her mother's impassioned cries. When it was her turn to speak, Jenna stood up amid a mix of cheers and murmurs. I think my mum is right that we need to protect our town. But what if change can be something good? Not every mall destroys a community. What if this is an opportunity to grow? Jenna's voice rang out, a mixture of fear and defiance. The room fell silent, shock evident on Anna's face. A heated exchange followed, a battle of ideals, but Anna and Jenna's eyes never left each other, a mirror reflecting their love and hurt. After a long and exhausting night, the meeting concluded without resolution. Chapter 4. The fallout. Following the meeting, the tension at home escalated. Jenna no longer returned home at regular hours, often crashing with friends. Anna's voice grew more strained, her heart aching as she tried to understand where she had gone wrong. The once cheerful home was now filled with silence and a deep-seated divide. In her desperation, Anna turned to Adam for support. Over cups of coffee that had long cooled, she spilled her frustrations. I don't know what to do anymore. It's like I've lost Jenna. I'm terrified of everything changing, she confessed. Adam sighed, rubbing his temples. You're both struggling with the same thing, finding your place in a changing world. You love her too much to let go, but it's time you listen to her, not just your instincts as a mother. Anna felt an ache in her chest. Adam was right. It was easy to forget that Jenna was her own person with dreams, ideas, and desires that didn't revolve around her protection. But admitting this was harder than it seemed. Chapter 5. A glimmer of hope. The weeks dragged on. The day of the vote arrived, building feverish anticipation across Maplewood. People had gathered, ready to vote for the future of their beloved town, and a strange alchemy filled the air. Apprehension mixed with a fierce hope. Jenna arrived late, her heart racing as she spotted Anna already at the podium. Their eyes locked, but instead of anger, they found something softer, an understanding of the weight of their love, overshadowing their differences. Before I finish, I want to say something, Anna began, turning towards the back of the room where Jenna stood. I've made mistakes, and I realize that I've focused so much on my fears that I haven't allowed my daughter to grow. Change is daunting, but it is also a part of life, one that we all must navigate together. The realization hit Jenna, like a cool breeze on a summer's day. Anna's heartfelt acknowledgement was a bridge. As the votes were tallied, anticipation saturated the air. There were murmurs of dissent from both sides, but what resonated most was a new spirit of understanding forming amongst townsfolk. Chapter 6. Resolution. The vote was close, and finally, the town council announced the decision, a compromise. Parts of the shopping centre would be built, but a community park would be integrated as well, ensuring Maplewood retained its charm. Cheers erupted from some, while others looked on in disappointment. Jenna rushed to Anna, pulling her into a tight hug. I'm sorry I hurt you, Mum. I just wanted my voice heard. Anna held her daughter's shivering frame, the warmth of their embrace mending the rift that had stretched between them. And I'm sorry for not listening and for trying to shield you too fiercely. We're both seeking the same thing, a place where we belong. Let's figure it out together. From that day forward, the Hartley family began to rebuild their relationship, teetering on the edges of independence and reliance. As Maplewood moved towards its uncertain future, the echoes of laughter filled the Hartley home once more, a subtle dance between light and shadow that illuminated their lives. Time passed, and while they still faced challenges, Anna and Jenna learned to navigate their differences anchored in love and respect. They stood alongside each other, watching as their community evolved, hands held firmly together, ready to face whatever storm may come next. Epilogue. A new understanding. Tension had dissipated as the seasons changed, and Maplewood morphed into a symphony of community spirit. As they walked through the new park, filled with laughter and playful shouts of children, Anna understood something vital. The heart of a community is not just in preserving the past, but in balancing cherished traditions with the hopes of tomorrow. It was here, hand in hand with her daughter, that Anna realized they had not just survived the turmoil, but had emerged stronger, wiser, and far more connected. This journey would always be a blend of light and shadow, a testament that growth often requires a little bit of both. Aita for not attending my best friend's wedding. After his ultimatum, the soft autumn sun filtered through my bedroom window as I scrolled through the countless notifications on my phone. It was a classic Sunday morning, the kind that came with steaming coffee, a warm blanket, and a feeling of contentment. Yet today, my heart was heavy with tension, a tension that had been building up over the past few months. As I sat there, cup in hand, I couldn't shake the growing knot in my stomach. I had been best friends with Sam for over a decade, from our days of trading Pokemon cards and riding our bikes through neighborhood streets to late-night talks about life and love. We had been through it all together. But nothing could prepare me for the news I received a few months ago. Sam was getting married. At first, I was ecstatic. I can still remember our long chats when we dreamed about the future and who we might end up marrying. Sam had found his person, and I couldn't have been happier. But as the wedding date approached, a storm brewed on the horizon, one that threatened to tear our friendship apart. It all began when Sam asked me to be his best man. As the news sunk in, I felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility swell within me. He deserved a best man who was supportive, dependable, and ready to take on every task with enthusiasm. But there was a catch. Somewhere along the line, Sam decided to make the wedding a reflection of his own personal values, which extended to everyone in his life, including me. Listen, I'm all about making this a day to remember. The wedding will be simple, but I have a few rules, he declared one evening over dinner at a bustling pub, excitement in his eyes. I want you to completely cut ties with anyone who doesn't support my decision to not have alcohol at the reception. It's important to me that this day reflects my beliefs. My heart sank when I heard those words. Growing up, Sam and I had shared countless nights drinking sodas or sneaking sips of our parents' drinks. It was not always about the alcohol itself, but the memories forged over those electrifying conversations. I understood his viewpoint. He had recently struggled with addiction and wanted his wedding to be a healthy environment. Yet, this felt unreasonable. Sam, I support you, but I can't just cut out friends because they drink, I replied carefully. We can celebrate without alcohol, sure, but I hesitated. I don't think it's fair to place that weight on everyone's shoulders. He leaned back, crossing his arms. I get it. It's not fair to you, but it's important to me, and you're my best friend. If people can't respect that for one day, then they don't deserve to be part of this celebration. His words stung like a slap, and I felt my chest tighten. As days turned into weeks, the conflict only escalated. The bridal shower, a gathering I'd been looking forward to, was heavy with tension. Sam's fiancée, Lena, was the sweetest person I had ever met, and she dealt with the chaos with grace, often stepping in to ease the burden of the pressure Sam had placed upon us. The day of the bridal shower was filled with fun and laughter, surrounded by pastel balloons and the warmth of friendship. Still, lingering in the back of my mind was the gnawing itch of Sam's ultimatum. I could see his friends and family regarding each other suspiciously. The atmosphere felt on edge as we danced the tightrope of enjoyment and resentment. As we packed the car with gifts at the end of the day, a message from a mutual friend, Alex, illuminated my phone screen. Man, I still don't understand why you're going along with this. I can't respect that. The day is about love, not limiting people. The betrayal of my own conflicted emotions made my decision harder. I understood where Alex was coming from, yet a part of me ached to be true to Sam despite his unreasonable expectations. I was caught in a whirlwind of loyalties and mingled emotions. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing day, I found that I was withdrawing from the friendship. The conversations became stilted, and the laughter we once shared faded into the background. I stepped back from my role as best man, unsure of how to navigate the thin ice beneath my feet without plunging into the cold, frigid waters of conflict. Then came the wedding day. Everything was beautifully arranged. A charming venue adorned with wildflowers, a white-draped arch amidst a backdrop of autumn colours, a ceremony that looked like it had sprung to life from a fairy tale. Guests arrived, having adhered to Sam's strict no-alcohol rule, and my heart sank as I saw the glimmer of happiness in Sam's eyes as he stood at the altar. But the dilemma gnawed at me again. I had been ghosting my own friends, distancing myself from those who occasionally indulged in a drink. I could feel my own friendships fraying, but who was I to argue? Sam was my best friend. Could I betray our years of camaraderie? As I stood in line for my role in the wedding party, a surge of unease rolled over me while glancing at my phone, revealing another message. It was from Alex again. You seriously going to show up? You might not even enjoy your own life if you keep this up. It was then I made the impulsive decision that would change everything. I turned to the guys in the wedding party. I'm not sure I can do this. I don't feel good about cutting friends out because they choose to drink. The gasp came from the guy next to me, whose bewildered look mirrored how I felt inside. You're the best man. What do you mean? I mean, I replied defensively. I'm not going to pretend everything's okay. I'm not going to support this at the expense of my other friendships. With a heavy heart, I slipped away from the crowd, taking one last glance at Sam, who stood blissfully unaware, ready to enter matrimony with the woman of his dreams. I exited through a side door and into the crisp evening air, seeking refuge in my car parked beneath a tree. I began to cry, feeling the weight of everything. The decision I'd made, the friendships I'd lost, and the happiness of a day that felt tainted. I wanted to feel joy for Sam, but the fierce internal battle within me left me disheartened. As the wedding began, I sat in my car for what felt like hours, debating whether to return. I would miss the memories, the celebration of love, but was that worth sacrificing myself? 2 hours later, I finally got the strength to call Sam. I wish I could have prepared him better for this day. Sam, I'm not going to make it. I brothered with guilt, but his response was swift and harsh. I knew you wouldn't show up. He paused before continuing. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything different. Those were the last words I heard before he hung up. On me. It felt as if the final train pulled away from the station without me ever having gotten on board. I collapsed against the steering wheel, letting my feelings wash over me with an intensity I didn't know I had harbored. The weeks that followed were laced with guilt and shame. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was the villain in our story. I had imagined a life filled with happy memories alongside my best friend, yet I had chosen a path of isolation instead. Weeks later, I received an invitation to Sam and Lena's post-wedding celebration. A part of me was both relieved and apprehensive, but curiosity pulled me to attend, hoping that maybe I could mend the fracture I felt lingering between us. The celebration was casual. Sam and Lena welcomed everyone with open arms, and the ambience was calm and heartfelt. The laughter rang out, and as I stepped onto their porch, I was hit with a wave of nostalgia that complicated every emotion I felt. I spotted Sam, his expression unreadable, standing amidst the crowd with a gleaming ring on his finger. As I approached, he turned to me, and there it was. The flicker of pain and disappointment in his eyes mingled with a faint glimmer of hope. "Can we talk?" he said, steering me away from the crowd and into a more secluded area. "About the ultimatum?" I asked, forcing myself to face the conversation I had dreaded. More like, about you. This whole cut everybody out thing was stupid. And I realized that now, he admitted, his tone softer than I'd expected. I understand how important this day was to you, but I simply couldn't choose between our friendship or my other friends, I replied, searching his face for some sign of understanding. "I get it," he said, looking down for a moment before meeting my gaze again. I was trying to mold everything to fit my vision, and I lost sight of what matters, the people who care about me. I wish I hadn't put you in that position. Heavy silence loomed over us, but it felt like a weight slowly lifting. So, are we good? I asked hesitantly. It's a work in progress, Sam replied with a small smile, which spread across my face in response. I'm always going to need my friends, even if that means forgiving me for my bad decisions. The rift wasn't completely healed, but we stood on the cusp of something important, understanding. In the days that followed, we continued to work through our individuality and how it affects our friendships. I learned that sometimes love doesn't come with conditions, and letting go of rigidity creates space for growth. Our bond grew stronger, weaving understanding and resilience through the fabric of our friendship. In the end, maybe I wasn't the villain after all. I simply needed to be brave enough to be myself, even in the face of expectations. And as I stood alongside Sam, taking careful yet confident steps towards a future that embraced both friendship and individuality, I knew I was finally home.